see a lot of people doing that. There's an email coming in, immediately they look, you get nowhere.
How do CEOs of massive companies think? What do they know about time, decision, and scaling that most entrepreneurs don't? Today's guest is leading a semiconductor company.
Marcus Mosen, CEO of VN Marcus, CEO.
Marcus Mosen, he's the CEO of VN.
That has grown from 250 employees to over 600 employees across multiple continents.
If you have a $50 million business, you can basically run it yourself with a few people. But if you're talking about a business where you have $500 million, you can't do that alone.
With over 25 years of experience, Marcus knows what it takes to scale a business the right way.
Marcus, many struggle with scaling their business. What advice would you give?
First and most important is
in this episode, he reveals the mindset shifts and daily strategies that drives real success.
everybody's talking about it. We need to have a change, but not for me, please. To accept and to understand that this change is needed for the development of the company and for yourself.
If you want to scale your business, you need to start thinking like a CEO.
A good leader is someone who can first of all listen.
Marcus is about to share what he wishes he knew earlier. And trust me, this will radically change how you run your business.
What are the top skills every entrepreneur must master to succeed in business?
The most important, you have to find.
So the first question, Marcus, what exactly does a day in your life as a CEO look like?
That's always a good question. Since I'm the CEO, basically I'm only doing three things. One is I'm making phone calls all the time or have meetings with people. In that meeting, we make a decision and say we do A, B, or C. And then you need to follow up on that. Or I visit customer or institution or whatever. I'm representing the company in front of third-party people.
Is your day full? Like, do you have a full schedule with, tasks or meetings or phone calls, like one after the other during the whole day?
Not exactly. I'm trying to block time. So basically you're planning your week ahead, or not only week, actually. You're planning, let's say you have frequent calls, which are every week, you have it at the same time. And then you have spontaneous meetings, which is different. And then, of course, when I'm traveling outside of the office, then it's anyway totally different. Then you have some appointment with a third party, and then whatever is a customer or is an institution or is a government or is a association, whoever it is very different. Right? So you plan that accordingly. But yes, there are fixed meetings, but I don't have meetings like from morning 9 to 9 in the evening. I don't like that.
Sure. So I want to know exactly that. How do you prioritize your time? Because, many listeners struggles with managing their time effectively. So what's your go-to CEO level productivity hack? How you manage your time?
Like I said, there are three factors. And one is, for example, you have always this reading emails, for example, I'm not doing that ad hoc. So not every time it makes pop in my little iPhone, there's an email coming or WhatsApp message or WeChat message in China. I'm not opening it. If you ad hoc always look at your emails, I see a lot of people doing that. There's an email coming in, immediately they look, you get nowhere. And then there's another thing what I'm doing. I get a lot of emails, but if I'm not directly addressed to me, then you might not get an answer. If it is on CC, but you want me to give you an answer, I will not do that. You have to ask me directly, then of course you will get an answer, except you're a customer. So I spend my time, I say, hey, in the morning, I spend about 1 hour, no meeting. Because anyway, in the morning at 9, I need to have coffee first. I never start before 9 when I'm in Portugal, sometimes I start at 6 or 7 as well. But normally I start at, say, 9. I have 1 hour drinking coffee and have my emails. Then I shut down emails and I have some meetings, some talks, or I walk over and work with 1 or 2 people on some strategic deployments. I do something new, or I do it myself. I even do, I'm reading, for example, a presentation about strategy setup or new factory setup or what do people want, or I'm checking on these kind of things. Yeah. So I try to put it into a framework. Let me call it like this.
So your framework for productivity is basically how you address the emails.
How I address emails, how I address meetings. And in these meetings, we have a fixed timeline and we have to stick to that. Sometimes, of course, you have to be flexible. Sometimes it's longer, but normally it's okay. That's why I said, what is actually the role of a CEO? sitting in meetings, reading emails, answering emails, and making decisions. But I think the most important stuff is you must be willing to take the responsibility for a big team, because you are responsible in the end of the day take the burden, because not always it's easy and it's not always fun. And then you must be willing to create something different with your company.
Well, Marcus, what about time for thinking, reflecting, quiet time, your time? Sit and think about, the next steps with the company. Do you have time like that?
Yeah, I'm trying to do that in the first hour in the morning. I actually start in the morning. The first thing I do in bed is drinking coffee. And then I'm thinking, it's about different things, also private things, but also company things. But most important is that you don't take it into the night. That's the most terrible thing, that you could, then if you have some trouble that you can't sleep, because it's not always easy going. And then, of course, in the evening, I spend again, when we're going through, most of the people are leaving, say, in the factories around 5 to 5:30, and then here in the office around 6:30. Then I have another hour for myself. And sometimes you reflect on decisions you have done, and is it correct, is it not correct? But normally, once you made a decision, you can't change it easily back again. And you shouldn't do it as well. But sometimes if you make a failure, of course, you have to correct it.
So it sounds like you have that hour in the morning and that hour at the end of the day.
And you have a weekend.
And then, and the weekends.
Yes.
But the weekends you try not to think about work, right?
That depends. Sometimes it's
Okay.
okay to do that. Not always, right?
Mhm.
Of course, but sometimes, yes. If I'm here in Shanghai, I stay 2 weekends, then yes, of course, I will do. Exactly, and that weekends I will sometimes with a nice bottle of wine, and then you're thinking about you're going in the right direction or not. And so what do you...
If you're struggling to have the same passion and energy for your business that you once had, missing sleep, lacking focus, these are all signs of burnout. In my experience, burnout is something almost every entrepreneur faces at some point, and if you're not ready, it can take you out. My name is Ido Letterman. I'm a former successful musician and founder of multiple pioneering businesses, helping hundreds of entrepreneurs reach their desired version of success. I created the Burnout-Free Business Guide, a simple 7-day guide to help you reset your relationship with your business, your mindset, and more. If you like this guide, I'll be glad to send it to you for free. Check out the link below, enter your email, and I'll send it your way. Can you share some more values that guide your leadership and decision making?
Basically, we have, or for myself, always the most important value, besides being engaged and be willing to take the risk and responsibilities, is respect. It's really essential that you, especially if you work intercontinental, you work with different cultures. So it's really essential that you respect the different behaviors and different cultures. It doesn't mean that you always like that, right? But you have to respect, first of all. And that makes it much more easier if you can do that you respect other people's way of working and behavior. That makes it more easier to engage with them and get into touch with them and get better results. It's something which I try to value also in my private life. But that doesn't mean, of course, that everybody I meet, I will, of course, first of all, respect that person and accept the opinions, but it doesn't mean that I will follow all the time. But decision making has we are talking about a business and you have to make money. You try to make decisions which are target oriented so that you achieve what is your target. And what we normally have, if in a company like ours, you have a long-term target, say 5-year target, you have a midterm and short-term target.
But how do you make sure those values are reflected across the entire organization, especially when you run a global organization?
You prepare the people that you basically have a daily change in your work. That sounds a little bit too much, but actually every few weeks you must have a change in your organization in order to see what is happening outside of your organization as well. So we try to do the cultural change so that the company is moving forward. Because it's different whether you have a company is 50 people or 100 people, or you have a company with 600 people, or soon our company will have about 1,000 people. So that's our next step, what we are doing now. We are preparing now for the next level. So the people must change, and sometimes people can't change. Change is something what people don't like. That's my experience. On one hand, everybody's talking about it. We need to have a change. You can see that now in the politics in Germany, for example. Everybody is talking about we need to have a change. But you can have a change, but not for me, please. Right? So, but you are part of it. You are part of a society, and the company is kind of a society as well. This, again, to accept change will ask you to be respectful, to accept and to understand that this change is needed for the development of the company and for yourself. And this sometimes is hard, of course, because sometimes you realize that people who are sitting in the management position can't go the next step, which is not good then, of course. Right? But that happens also.
Marcus, please explain to me, how do you train people to accept change in a company of that size?
Well, we show them the advantage of change. We show them what has happened, and we show them the history of the company as well. Because if you're looking back, then you will realize, oh, they had already quite a lot of change. I didn't feel it really, and I didn't feel it as a pain or as a burden, as something to worry me. So I think the people need to understand that the change is not the big change that you're moving to a different office, but the change in behavior. So because if you want to grow a company to a certain level, you have to adapt your behavior to the level where you are. Like I said, if you have a $50 million business, you can basically run it yourself with a few people. But if you're talking about a business where you have $500 million, you can't do that alone anymore. You need to build teams. And these teams need to work together. And that doesn't mean that they always have the same opinion, right? But they need to work together. And once you make a decision to go in what direction you decide they have to go. And if you find out it's not the right way, then of course you have to also be able to raise that. That is for me to be willing to accept change every day, that I can also say every day, oh, I made something wrong. And we need to change back. And the culture is one thing. And the other thing is, of course, actually, the target setting is also changing every year and sometimes every quarter. Depends, of course, a little bit on the situation you are in. But the training is done basically with showing the people over 3 days we are sitting together there. And we do try to cascade that into the whole organization, say from the lowest level to the highest level of the team members, so that everybody knows what will change. And suddenly you have to accept that there might be a different boss for you. Some people can't cope with that. Or, for example, which is in engineering world, I say 60% of the people are male and only 40% are female. And suddenly you have a female leader in front of you. Can the guys accept that? Some cannot. But they have to. Right? So that's what I mean with you have to adapt to the company's culture and the change culture. And we are trying to do this change culture on a frequent basis. So, and yeah, leadership training is the same thing, because leadership, what is leadership, right? Leadership means basically, for me, a good leader is someone who can, first of all, listen. So you have to be able to listen to people. And that's, for me, the most important one.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video with Marcus, please let me know in the comments below so I will know to bring in more CEOs for you guys to learn from in the future.
How does it feel to be in your position? Is it lonely at the top like everybody imagines?
Well, before I was the business line leader, that's where it starts. I was a manager for marketing, say, and I had a lot of friendship with all the other marketing managers. And we go for drinks in the evening after work, right? So we met on the weekends and do something together. But suddenly when I move into the leader position, then they still do that, but without me. So I had to, so of course you have formal meetings too, right? So where you go for dinner, but it's different.
Right.
So that is also something which you have to accept that is changing. Yeah, that's true.
All right. Let's talk about key skills for successful leadership. So Marcus, as someone who's worked in high-stakes environment for decades, in your opinion, what are the top skills every entrepreneur must master to succeed in business?
Yeah, like I said, the most important for me is you have to find the right team you can rely on. And trust is very important, because I cannot make every decision, right? So there are lots of decisions done every day. Basically, the team is number one. You have to find a way to build a team which is following say, or having the same idea what you want to achieve, what the company wants to achieve. We are in the business of consumer solar energy, but also e-vehicles, e-cars, but we want to achieve that we are a part of, they say, of this environmental change, and that we are contributing to the reduction of or increase of energy saving and energy efficiency. But that means the team must think like that as well. So that's what I want, that you have a real team working together. Sometimes you can realize that people don't fit well. Then you have to find a new job for them, for example, within the company, of course, but they cannot basically be then anymore in the leadership team, for example, if they don't want to do that. But that is the most important, team. I ask my people always to hire people who are at least on the same level or better than themselves. That's not easy. You have your potential, you hire your potential successor. So it's not easy. But again, that's part of trust. So I have done that, for example, for myself. I know already who will be my successor. And he is sitting the few doors down. I hope he's still there.
Can you share like what made you pick this guy?
In the beginning is a feeling only, because after so many years, of course, you have a feeling for people in that business, right? So what does that mean? That feeling? So if there's pressure, if you have trouble, if something goes wrong, if the market is collapsing, the customers are canceling all the orders, and from one day to the other you're in deep shit, are you still stand strong, or you're giving up, or you're complaining about others? You are responsible that this customer is not. No. So I expect that people who can be a leader stay still strong in front of the team and are responsible for what is happening. So, and also I think that, and then of course that he's showing that kind of respect I accept from everybody, and so I can trust him. And of course, last but not least, his performance is good. If his performance would not be good, then all the other stuff doesn't help.
Do you think leadership is something anyone can learn, or is it more like an innate ability?
Someone who is willing to take a burden, right, a responsibility for something, and whatever it is, even if it is in your family, if that person, in my opinion, can always be a CEO or a leader leading a organization, a department, or a company. The rest you can learn. I think the rest is just technical stuff. Operational stuff.
Marcus, let's take one step back, talking about the fact that you lead a global organization, and you talked about having people from different parts of the world, different mentalities. Because in today's businesses, so many entrepreneurs, including myself, we have employees from all over the world, different backgrounds, different mentalities, different hours, different everything. What is your secret to effective global leadership?
Yeah, like I said, you have to respect different culture. That's number one. And because when you look into our organization, we have and it's quite funny. We have people working in all over the world, basically in the US, in Europe, in Asia, of course, Middle East. We have different languages, different culture, different religion, and of course, you have people are used to a different way of living as well. It's just a different thing if you're talking with someone. We have a team in India, for example. They have a different background. They have these caste systems. They're Hindu people, but they also say 10% or 50% of the population are Muslims. So they must be able also to integrate in their team a Muslim, for example. It's not so easy. Then we have a Turkish team, which is all Muslims, right? So then we have a team in Europe. They're all Christian, and here Buddhist, but all of those people should have one aim, one target, that is to make the company great, to help the company to grow, regardless borders, culture, and that means respect. You have to respect a different culture.
What's your approach to making tough decisions under pressure?
You still work around it. You make it happen that the company is still surviving, and the people are surviving. COVID was something where in the beginning, everything is shutting down. Right? So all relation between people, that means also the business relation is shutting down. And then for the first weeks, we thought, gosh, how you manage this, right? You don't get orders anymore. How can you run a factory? What I'm going to do with my factory? If I don't run the factory, I will be bankrupt very soon. It's only a question of time, right? So you cannot shut down a semiconductor factory because it needs to run. Semiconductors, you need chemicals. The chemicals, and you need water, you need electricity, and you cannot shut down either one of those. It is a hazardous thing. So, but they did. So what we did is we smuggled people inside. They were not allowed to get out anymore. So we had 20 people staying in the factory without being able to get out for 4 weeks. And we had to provide them with food. So we organized a team of food supply people who were not allowed to go home at that time. So we rented a camper. So I show you, that is only one way how to work around it, but to still make it happen.
How do you project to the people when, where nothing is certain? People are panicking. It's hard to see the future in that situation. How do you message to the people that, it's going to be okay?
By telling the truth. You cannot tell any bullshit. So you cannot tell them that everything is super, and they also see it's not super. So, but I think it's more easy if, again, you build a team, and I'm part of that team as a CEO, and I'm also suffering. So I'm not being in a better situation, but of course, like I said, the virus, like in the COVID situation, doesn't bother about skin or heritage or culture or country, also not about hierarchical dimensions or whether you are the boss or not the boss. So that's something which I think will give people a certain confidence that the company will go on. And that's what it did. Yeah, that's why one of the reasons why I had to travel to China. I can also imagine better things than sitting 2 weeks in a hotel room. You're not allowed to get out. Have terrible food.
So it's being present with them.
Show that you can manage it. Be present and show solutions. Like when the factory shut down, we show solution how we can manage it. When we had, some of the young engineers, they are, say, 25, 26, they are not married. They're staying home. They eat basically pizza all day. Or have the, how you call it, the home deliveries. And then when you have a shutdown, then suddenly there is no home delivery anymore. But they don't have a fridge full of stuff like families have, right? So we had to take care of them that they get something to eat.
This is where your experience, your vast experience come into play. And you have been through stuff and they haven't, but you have. So you can be the more optimistic guy in the room and tell, hey, we're gonna be all right. Which is great to have.
That's true. That's a bit, that's an age thing as well. That's true.
We talked about communication. We talked about decision making. We talked about delegation. Which of those skills you think took you the longest to develop to the level that you now have? What did you have to work on most? Communication, decision making, delegating.
Delegating is relatively easy, but to delegate the right thing to get the result you want to have is not easy.
Right.
And to find the right people take time. Communication, I think, is, Marian always says, I'm not good in communication. That is very likely true when it comes to family and it comes to internal affairs, so to say. But I'm communicating here all the time. And I always say to my wife, I'm happy if I can be quiet for a while because I'm talking all the time when I'm here. And I also want to have the point where I want to be relaxed and lay back and not in the front. So, but I think communication is something which you need to learn. Yes, you can learn. And the communication means you have to have an honest and clear communication. So that not talking around the bush, So, but I think, listening is, for me, a most important part of the communication as well.
What happens when you listen?
I get feedback, and I get feedback on very different dimensions. You get personal feedback, for example, but you also get feedback on a certain topic. And feedback is always good because feedback helps you to develop your own ideas and own thinking. Without feedback, you're running always in your own circle. So only the feedback will help you to break out of these circles and do something different, which is needed. Change culture, change management. So
the feedback is your greatest tool, is asking people questions, listening, getting the feedback. And now you have all the means you need to make decisions, to create changes, to create new things.
Exactly. Especially when you have, again, we talk about the different cultures. You have some cultures who give feedback by itself, American culture, right? They are always feedback every day. Awesome, great. Or then they go and talk a totally different story. That's not good. We don't do it like that, right? But other cultures are more reluctant in giving feedback because feedback is also a risk. Because feedback means you give your opinion. Maybe in the case you give feedback to me, you give it to your superior. That's risky. I could have a different feeling on that one. So that is something you need to create, that culture, that communication feedback culture, that people are willing to give feedback. So Chinese culture, for example, is not really feedback. So they need to learn. I mean, it's not only because of the political situation, it's about the history. You remember China history, there was always one king, and it's a similar thing to one guy on top in a communist party. But the feedback culture is still important, and they have to develop it in a company like ours because we are dealing with worldwide customers.
Interesting. Give me a question, if you can. A question that you ask and you know that by asking that question, you will get the right feedback, the honest feedback that you need.
I should give you one of those questions which people should ask. Okay. Well,
I need the tools, Mark. It's like, Mark, you're here to get some tools for my business, that I can use today.
Yeah, well, that's difficult to make. But for example, we had just yesterday also, we were setting up the cost level for different departments. And I thought it's good, all fine. And then I get the feedback from one guy who said, why is the budget for Selex the only one which is growing while the budget for the other departments is cut down? Then I said, why not? And then he said, yeah, but why you don't need to have a reason for that, right? Because number one, all the other department heads will think, I am paying and they will get everything, which is indeed was happening that later. Then the second one is you need to have a verification, a justification for that. So what is the justification that they increase? And so it was obviously not clear to the team why we increase Selex. So because we're hiring more salespeople in different regions where they are more expensive than in other regions. But obviously they didn't know. So that feedback was important for me to tell me, hey, it's not clear what you're doing. For example, that's a very constructive feedback.
I love the question that you asked him, why not? I love that. It's so simple, reaction. But that's it. That's the question I was looking for.
Yeah.
Why not?
That was my first reaction.
Why shouldn't it be like that? That's great.
Yes.
Thank you, Marcus. You talked about you just now relaxing. So how do you personally handle stress and stay focused? What do you do?
Well, there are, of course, different ways, right? So in the company, I have to say, I very, very seldom feel stress. In all my business life, for me, stress is, for example, I can't sleep at night because I'm thinking, right? So that is for me a stress.
Very familiar.
And I don't find a solution. I'm thinking, I don't find a solution to a whatever problem, issue, topic, or I have to do something I don't want to do. So that, for example, this makes me stress. So then you need to find solution. And if you cannot find a solution, then you need to make a crash, so to say. Besides that, for the normal working for me is no stress. So there's no meaning for stress for me. And what I do, for my private life, then I like cooking. And I like while I'm cooking, I'm listening to music or listening to podcast, or I play a little bit guitar that helps me to get other ideas. And just combine, take part of your life, what you like to do privately, and then you will get eased. For me, at least, that's like this.
During the 15 years in Asia and your global leadership journey, were there moments that you felt overwhelmed?
We were living in, both of my kids were born, one in Hong Kong and the other one in Singapore. So we were living 15 years in total. I met actually Marion in Beijing, 1995.
Marion, your wife.
I'm one of the few foreigners, I guess.
Which is friends with my wife as well, which is how we met.
Yes. I met her in Beijing in 1995. And we were living until 2012. In Asia, Shanghai, Singapore, Beijing. There was a point where I was feeling, I once told Mariam, she can tell that actually much better than I can, but I told Mariam, I need to go home. And she looked at me, what do you mean you need to go home? I said, I need to go back to Germany. It's time. And I said, it's time because I feel like they're getting too close. They were the Chinese people in that respect, in that moment, right? Because little things like I was in the elevator and people always rush the last second in the elevator. And there were always 100 people in one elevator. And I said, why the hell you're doing that? Take it easy. And then I realized that starts to annoying me. So I cannot change the Chinese culture because I'm just a little guy from Germany. But if they start to change me, then I have to take action. That's why I said to mine, I need to go home. And that was, and I needed to have a rest from working in this environment.
Did it help?
But then after a while, I was okay.
Yeah, did it help? You went home and it helped, and then you came back?
Yes, it helped. I just need to have a break. Not from work, but from people.
But has this experience impacted your approach to how you manage the business today?
No, but just making not the business, but put even more emphasis on culture and cultural change management. Put in more. Because I realized myself I couldn't stand this culture anymore, right? So then that was one moment, for example, where I said, I need to go.
And maintaining the work life about playing the guitar, cooking for the family.
I'm not playing enough guitar because I don't have enough time. And when I'm playing guitar at home and my family is around, they don't like it. They don't like it, so I only play when I'm alone, so to say, and I have more time to play. But I think that's for me just a tool, really, to make myself feel better again, relax.
What is a habit or routine that's been most helpful in maintaining your balance?
Routine on one hand, but you see, we moved to Portugal. Why are you doing that? So Mary and myself, we were actually moving house every few years, every 5 years, I can say. That's, for a lot of people, they can't understand that. For them, it feels like unrest. For us, it's more like, is a routine which gives something new and makes us feel better again. And then cooking is, for me, really something which brings it down to earth. And listening to music. And listening to music I have to do with my headphones. Otherwise, people around me get nervous again.
Except that what you told me about the fact that you just couldn't stand the environment anymore and you had to go back to Germany. Did you face to me it sounds like burnout. Did you face burnout in other circumstances? Any time, maybe more recent time? And if so, how did you recover and bounce back? Or was it just...
No, I don't call it burnout, but maybe you are right? So I don't know. I only felt like, I say, I'm not happy. And not happy, your people around you will feel it. And you give it. You give your unhappiness to your team, you give your unhappiness to your family. So that's why I said I need to change. So not for myself that I feel like I need to, but similar, like again, when I was then back in Hamburg after a few years, again, feel like I need to change. I need to go away from Germany again.
You need that change. That's part of Euro too, right?
Yeah.
Marcus, is there someone who has inspired you most as a leader?
Yeah, I can say in my direct environment, my first leader was a lady in Siemens. She was already a little bit older at that time, 50 something. I was still young, so I really like her because she was conservative, Bavarian style conservative, right? But still having the heart on the right side. At the heart has to be, right? And feeling like working very nicely with different people. So she, for example, it was not straightforward that they hire me, right? Coming from Baden-Baden, in broadcasting company, having had my own magazine, and I mean, not really say for industrial conglomerate, the right guy, right? No idea on business, but she tried, and that's what I like, and that was for me quite inspiring. And from then, of course, from that perspective, she was definitely the one I like most.
What was the one piece of advice from her that you remember still, or you took the inspiration to and took it to your own style of leading?
Learn to be patient. Don't expect the solution within a second. Sometimes you have to be patient.
How do you practice this patient on a day-to-day basis? You just give more time for things to happen?
Yes, give more time for things to happen and understand that working together with other people always needs a compromise. Right. And compromise means you have a patient. And that's especially in our industry. Our industry, I mean, the production to produce one chip takes 4 to 8 weeks or even 12 weeks. Sometimes customer will put the order and say, I want to have it tomorrow. I said, good idea. But how about tomorrow is in 6 weeks? So, so that's part of it. So that's why I think it is one of the things what I learned from her and make it happen for me to work in this industry. Because by nature, you have to be patient. Of course, you do planning always accordingly, right? But still, it's always a challenge.
I agree 100%. I've done so many mistakes because I wasn't patient enough to wait for the result to come, just wanting the results to come so quickly that I made another change and another change and another change and another change.
Yeah.
And with time, I learned that I should have just stick to the first one and give it time.
Yeah, but it's normal, especially when you're young. You're not patient enough, of course. You want to have done everything very quick.
Do you remember like a failure that you've experienced as a CEO that taught you a lesson? Like I just shared with you that you still carry with you today?
I still keep it with me?
No, not keep it with you, but you carry the lesson.
Yeah, I think, of course. Well, basically, mistakes you do all the time. The most important is that you don't repeat a mistake, that you learn from a mistake. That's why I say, yes, of course, I do say, but like major mistakes where you burn like hundreds of millions of dollars, no. But yeah, I had one where I'm working on a new project with a guy in UK, a genius, I have to say, but I underestimate his difficulty, his character's difficulties. So, and he couldn't work together with one guy in our department, also a genius, engineer genius. They were fighting each other instead of. And in the end, I lose $1 million and I got nothing for it. That I didn't like. Yeah, that was a big mistake to believe that they can work together.
What did you learn? What did you learn from that mistake?
You select the people more carefully. Maybe only one can be the genius. If people are afraid, they will not be innovative. If they are not innovative in our area, then we are losing.
Marcus, many of my audience struggle with scaling their business. What advice would you give for entrepreneurs about managing growth effectively?
I think first and most important is you must be convinced about your product, if you have a product, or if you don't have a product, about that what you are doing. You must know that you are the best or your product is the best. And because you will have to compete with someone else. You are not the first one doing something. And I think the second one is, like I said, you change. For example, in our case, we need to change our product portfolio. And you need to find the customers who want to buy that. So you visit them, you need to convince them. And the way how to do that, I think, is by putting yourself into the shoes of a customer. What would you do if there's someone coming like me and telling you, hey, you need to buy my chips. They're much better than the ones from the other guy. Unfortunately, a little bit more expensive. So that's where I think you must be convinced that you have the best portfolio, the best solution, or at least on par with the best companies, and then find a way how to bring it to your market or to the customer. But the market is there, but it's not waiting for you.
With working in multiple industries, like you have from automotive to power solutions and so many markets. What's the secret, you think, to identifying the right market opportunities?
Again, you need to have the right people, of course, who understand the markets, in my case. But for myself, when I joined one of the companies, and I asked and the business was really small and not doing well and losing money. We had to make a turnaround later. So a big song. I asked one of the product marketing guys, who's now going to be my successor. And so I asked him, why can't you sell this product? Because and then he said, I don't know. But I said, okay, if he doesn't know, and that is true that he doesn't know, who knows? So then I started doing it myself with him, of course. So visit the customers one by one, and why they're not buying, why you don't take this product, until I realized that what we were developing, no one wanted, no one needed. So we had to change.
Amazing. Is there a mistake you see many entrepreneurs make, and you think that they can avoid it?
Make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. But learn out of every mistake and don't repeat it. That's what I always say. Like when I made a lot of mistakes, like I said, and I think it's okay. It's normal. It's just human to make that. But at the same time, you need to really define the right market, the right area you want to go to.
Okay, that brings us perfectly to the last question, which is, as someone who've obviously reached the tipping point of success multiple times, what does reaching the tipping point of success mean to you nowadays?
That you always want to achieve the next one?
It's true.
It's not money. Money you get used to. Of course, I was reading once a nice interview with a writer, author, and he was publishing some crime books and making lots of money. They say, well, money is not meaning, unless, of course, now I can go in the guitar shop and buy a guitar. In the past, I couldn't do that. I had to work for that long time. Now it's more easy. But money is not all. It's nothing about. But I think it's the feeling of success. I think it's that feeling of success, and that it makes you feel okay.
And that still drives you today also.
Yeah.
Hey, if you like this video, I have another video talking about CEO level productivity tips. Go check it out.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you're ready to take your business to the next level, don't miss out on my free Burnout-Free business guide. It's a simple 7-day plan to help you reset your relationship with your business, improve your mindset, and achieve more while staying balanced. You can download it right now for free using the link in the description. And before you go, I've handpicked 2 more interviews that I know you'll find incredibly valuable. These videos dive even deeper into strategies that can help you reach the tipping point of your success. Just click on one of them and continue your journey to building a thriving business that you deserve. See you in the next episode.